It's interesting because diversity has been a large part of the business press and acceptability and diversity. But we haven't typically thought about it in terms of how does that affect interpersonal relationships and skills? And then what I'm taking away from what you're saying is that the more culturally aware of diversity and adaptability that a leader is, the more effective that they're going to be as a leader.
Absolutely. You have to have a better understanding and appreciation of cultures. And one of the things that we did at Corning and also at Thermo Fisher was we use a tool called the Cultural Orientation Indicator, COI. They may call it something else today, but essentially the tool tells you by default, how do you go about dealing with conflict? How do you work in a team? How do you solve problems? How do you make decisions? How do you look at time as a factor? And in different countries and different cultures that impact or influence, are you going to take conflict head on? Are you going to confront it? Or are you going to avert it? Is decision making in a hierarchical situation based on the leader or in a much more consensus way? So there's so many aspects to this. And if you are Korean or a Japanese or a Thai, for example, and you are now on a business trip or you're beginning to engage with a global team, or maybe you're going to the head office, it could be in Europe or it could be the US, your counterparts and your colleagues have a very different cultural perspective. It's valuable for both parties to understand what the cultural differences are, just to be aware, because awareness is what's going to help you to be more effective in those conversations and in those meetings. So we did that. I did that knowing some of the challenges my colleagues had, especially in Asia, and also some of the challenges my Western colleagues had coming from the US or in Belgium or in France when they had to travel to Asia. And it was an immense help, especially in one-on-one coaching and supervisor and employee relationships. It could be either way, Asian supervisor and somebody in the West who is a subordinate, or it could be a Western supervisor, or it could even be a coaching relationship. Just understanding the cultural differences and advances can go a long way to enhance communication. Because if you're not absolutely clear in the communication, then you're not going to be able to make the right decision. You're not going to be able to exercise proper judgment. And that's going to lead to poor engagement. And we all know what poor engagement leads to: attrition. Then rather than working with somebody, you're trying to fill a role. So you're not being productive. I think it's really important for people to understand the cultural differences on both sides.